Hello friends. We're taking a look today at the healing of the lame man by the pool. You remember that Jesus is in Jerusalem and he's walking by this pool, the pool of Bethzatha. And there were invalids of all kinds that lay by the pool. Some were blind, others were lame or paralyzed. And Jesus begins a conversation with a man who has been ill for 38 years. He asks him, "Do you want to be made well?" And I suppose that he really did. He had the desire, because Jesus then gives him this command. He says, "Stand up, take your mat, and walk." And verse 9 tells us that at once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. Now, let's accommodate the skeptic in each of us. Is there evidence in this text and historical record that tells us that the miracle was genuine? Well, you'll notice that the miracle was unsolicited. Jesus was the one who initiated the encounter with the lame man. Also, the lame man was not anticipating a cure. In fact, there's no evidence at all that he even knew who Jesus was. And also, according to verse 9, the healing was instantaneous. It didn't take a long time for this man to find the strength to get up and walk after being lame for 38 years. I think, to me, though, the greatest evidence that a genuine miracle occurred is that the opponents of Jesus, those who opposed him, did not doubt that he had performed a cure. What was their beef? It was that he healed a man on a Sabbath day. Now, you may know from your study of Scriptures that Jesus was often in conflict with the religious leaders of his day over their Sabbath day law. According to their tradition, it was not lawful for someone to carry something on the Sabbath day. Now, let's go back to Exodus chapter 20, where one of the 10 Commandments is that the Jews were to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. In fact, the text said, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall not do any work on the seventh day. Now, do you understand the spirit of that text to mean that you've got 6 days to do your occupation? You've got 6 days to perform work that brings in a livelihood. But the seventh day is a day when you ought to be resting and thanking God for all that He's done for you. Well, over time, the religious leaders had, changed the spirit of that law, I'm going to say. Because over the years, they start to argue about what constitutes work. I guess they felt that God did not do a very good job of explaining Himself in that command, remember the Sabbath day. And so, over the years, they tried to explain what constituted work. By the time the Mishnah had been codified, by the way, the Mishnah is a collection of the oral laws of the rabbis. It was put together in about the 2nd century. By the time the Mishnah was codified and edited, the rabbis had itemized 39 classes of activities that they felt were prohibited under the Sabbath laws. 39 classes of activities. Apparently, they thought that carrying your mat constituted work. But that wasn't the spirit of God's Sabbath law. I'm sure Jesus felt that He had God's blessing to heal a man on any day of the week. Now imagine this. The religious leaders are upset because Jesus healed a man on the wrong day of the week. To me, they should have been very happy that Jesus performed such a miracle. But back to my point. My point is that this may be the greatest evidence that a genuine miracle occurred. They could not deny that a miracle had occurred. This man was healed. He was standing in front of them. I'm sure many of them even knew that this man had been ill for 38 years. I mean, this probably was well known in Jerusalem. But the point is, they did not deny that a miracle occurred. They only could say, well, he did it on the wrong day. Well, that's all I want to say for today. What I wanted to say in this vlog was that yes, there is solid evidence to believe that a genuine miracle occurred. In other words, we don't have to leave our brains parked at the door to accept the claims of Jesus in this text. Now, in our next vlog, I want to discuss what this sign reveals to us about Jesus. And in that next vlog, we want to apply this to our own lives. Stay tuned.